Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Space Koala. My name is Luca, and today I have something super exciting to share with you. The brand new ASI2600MC Air was just released by ZWO this week. I have it right here. So today we're gonna open it up, see what's inside, test it out, see how it works. This is the latest camera model of ZWO, and the idea is that essentially it builds upon previous products, and they have tried to combine as many products into a single one as humanly possible. So let's get into it. Contrary to the usual camera boxes, it doesn't just have a picture of the camera on the front, it also has a picture of a generic deep sky camera, an ASI Air, and a guiding camera. This is to give you the idea that this is an all-in-one device which combines all of these features. Essentially, when it comes down to it, what this is last year's model of the 2600MC Duo with the built-in guiding sensor, and the ASI Air Mini, which is the smallest version of the integrated control system of ZWO. I'm very excited to see how this is going to work. A little bit skeptical, but mostly very intrigued. So let's see. Opening up the box, we have a what's in the box, which is just an explanation of everything you should expect to find. We have a quick guide in English and Chinese, and then we get down to the actual stuff. So we have this soft, velvety kind of cover on the camera, and then we get the actual beautiful camera, which on first glance looks very much like all the other cameras we've seen before. Then we have a box of accessories that looks exactly like the one that used to be included with the ASI Air. And we have this little foam thing that comes with the antenna inside. This will be the antenna that we have to put on the back of the camera to actually get Wi-Fi. What do we get in terms of accessories? There is a USB cable. There's another USB cable. There's a DC cable, one more DC cable, a DC extension cable, one of those long ones, kind of a spool of Velcro, I assume for cable management, which is ironic because they never used to include this when we used to have many more cables than what we're about to have now. There is an Allen key for the tilt plate. There are the usual adapters to reach a 55mm back focus. And there is an adapter ring from M48 to M54. Before we assemble it all and try it out, let's have a look at the camera itself, more specifically how it compares to the old model. When we look at the back side of the camera, we can see that it looks entirely different. We have completely gotten rid of the USB 3 ports. And you would think, oh wow, they have replaced it with the USB-C port that you see here. However, this is not the case because the USB-C you have here is not part of the camera itself. This is part of the integrated ASI Air. So that is the equivalent of the USB-C that you have on the ASI Air Mini that is inside. This USB-C port, or any of the USB-A ports for that matter, none of them are actually functional to access the camera itself. And this is a very important point that we'll get into in a bit, that you cannot use this camera via cable. But let's see what else we have. We obviously have the little connector where I can install the antenna. We have 3 DC ports instead of the one. So on the old models, we used to have just a single DC in port. Now we have 3 hybrid ports. They're in and out. So one of them, whichever one you like, you will be using as a power in, and then the other 2 can be used to power other devices. Then we have 4 USB 2 ports that can be used to attach accessories, like if you want to connect your mount, which is actually not always necessary, which I will demonstrate in a minute. And like any other regular accessory, like your filter wheel, focuser, anything like that. And finally, we just have a reset button that just resets the Wi-Fi, which is once again inherited from the ASI Air Mini that is inside. So this product is really just these 2 guys got together, combined themselves, had a baby, and the new 2600MC Air was born. Since it is the combination of those 2 products, it means that we have a bunch of functionalities combined into one. We have the IMX571 color sensor as a main camera sensor, which is a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor with a pixel size of 3.76. I think that this sensor is very well known. I think it might be one of the most popular ones in astrophotography. And then we have the integrated guidance camera sensor on top, which is one of their ASI220 mini guide cameras. Moving on from the sensor, so far everything has been identical to the Duo, so just the two cameras together. The only reason these two look different is because I have the back adjustable tilt plate installed on my Duo. And good news is that this one that came out together with the Duo is actually compatible also with the new camera, so I think I will be installing it on this one as well. It is useful on some telescopes when you need to adjust the tilt because you can always access it from the back of the camera. So functionally, so far, everything is the same. We have the little silver knob on the side, which is used to adjust the relative focus between the two sensors. More specifically, you adjust the focus of the guide camera so that you are parfocal between the two sensors. And then the back of it is essentially the ASI Air Mini, which means you get full ASI Air functionality, you get your Wi-Fi generated, you are able to connect to it using the ASI Air app from your phone or iPad or anything like that. And then you can also connect accessories. You can control your entire telescope essentially over Wi-Fi. This is nothing new really, it's just they integrated it all into one. So without further ado, let's put the new Air to the test. I will be using my 60mm ASCAR V refractor telescope. It is a small telescope. I think that the destined use case for this setup is a very simple portable setup. I think that's the direction that anyway ZWO is going in. In my opinion, the target audience of this little device is people who want to build a very small, very portable, simple rig, and that's why I will be using a small refractor and not one of my big telescopes. One of the most exciting new features of the 2600MC Air is its wireless mount connectivity. More specifically, wireless mount connectivity over Bluetooth. Technically, it was already possible to connect your mount wirelessly with the previous models of the Air. However, that was over Wi-Fi. And since it was using up the Wi-Fi connection of the ASI Air, it was no longer possible to use station mode, which meant you couldn't connect the ASI Air to your home network at the same time as you were connecting to your mount. And that kind of defeated the purpose a little bit. With the Bluetooth connection, if it works, this should free up station mode, so we should be able to use station mode at the same time as wireless connectivity to the mount. And this also means that once again, we have one less cable. So we have already removed a cable running between the ASI Air and the guide camera because this is built in. Now we have removed a power cable and a data cable between the ASI Air and the main camera. And now we have also removed the cable between the ASI Air and the mount, if you have one of the supported mounts. Of course, the caveat being that this is only supported in case of the latest generation of ZWO mounts, namely the AM5N and the AM3. I will be testing it with the AM3. I think that this wireless connectivity can also be useful if you want to be using a very long telescope, because given the fact that the ASI Air by definition will now have to sit at the end of your telescope if you have a refractor, you don't want to have a lot of cables running through the entire length of the telescope because you just increase the risk of it getting snagged on something. So let's set it up. I only need a few cables to get everything running. First, I'll connect the power cable to the AM3 mount. Then I'll connect the power cable to the camera itself. Notice that we no longer need to run a USB cable between the camera and the mount, thanks to the wireless feature we will set up in a second. Finally, the only other cable I need is the one connecting the focus motor to the camera. Of course, with the ASI Air, the only compatible focuser is their own EAF, so keep that in mind. On this particular telescope, I have the old model of their EAF, which means that it also uses an additional power cable, but this is a really old one, and the ones produced in the past few years will only use a single USB cable. So next, I need to set everything up. I open up the ASI Air app on my device. As this is the first time I'm turning it on, I need to run through some activation and tutorial steps, but this is a very simple process. Going into the actual settings to check everything out, for the main camera, the app automatically detects that ASI2600MC Air, and all the settings are accessible directly from the interface. Nothing has changed here compared to any other ASI camera before. The same thing goes for the guiding. I just select the guidance sensor, the 220 mini, and use the settings, the same settings that I would have used under any condition. Now, for the most interesting bit, Bluetooth connectivity. Select the ZWO AM3 option, select BLE or Bluetooth, which I think is Bluetooth Low Energy. It should then show me all the available mounts. I'll just select my mount. It asks me to confirm the connection on the mount by pressing the Bluetooth button within 15 seconds, and it's as simple as that. Of course, if you don't have one of the latest generation ZWO mounts that support Bluetooth connectivity, you can still use a cable. This is just an extra option that is added for those of us that have one of those mounts. I think even if you don't use it all the time, the option is nice because it can always help you out when you drive multiple hours to go out to a dark sky and you realize that you brought one cable too few, which happens to me all the time. So all I have left to do is to connect the EAF, which is literally just a switch in the focuser tab. So we have set up completely. I have the mount, the main camera, the guide camera, and the focuser all connected, yet I barely have any cables around. In all honesty, I could easily transport this entire rig in one piece without ever disassembling it. As you can see, not a lot changed in the ASI Air app itself. I may just point out that the ASI Air Mini's DC ports cannot be controlled via software, and the 2600MC Air also inherited this. As you can see, the conditions tonight are far from ideal. The sky is mostly cloudy, you can barely see any stars, and the moon is about 70% illuminated. Normally, I would never be out shooting in these conditions, but I mean, they're still good enough to test the functionality of the camera. If anything, it puts the guide sensor to the test, whether it can still find some guide stars under these horrible conditions. So let's start by polar alignment. Not much has changed in the process. I'm just excited to see how it moves the mount via Bluetooth. Now that that is done, let's move on to focusing. I'm using the built-in focusing tool within the ASI Air app. It is very intuitive. I start autofocus, and after about a minute, I get my V-curve with my perfect focus set. Once again, it all works by itself. I don't have to do much. Nothing has changed. The same thing with the guiding. I point my scope near the celestial equator and start the guiding calibration. You can see it picks up quite a few stars despite the poor skies, and after a quick calibration, I'm guiding. So with everything set up and working, I'm going to start capturing images. Tonight, I'm going to be targeting something very bright in the sky. I'm going to be shooting the Pleiades. So I will just capture 20 quick frames of 5 minutes. I just want to see how stable all this connectivity is. Downloading a picture, I want to see this is somehow incredibly fast. This is much quicker than anything I have seen before with my ASI Air Plus or Mini. And I have always used the station mode, so I don't know if somehow they have made the transfer over Wi-Fi faster, or they are reading out the data faster from the camera. In any case, this is definitely a bit quicker than before. This is not going to change your life, but it is nice because I am an impatient person. So, good morning. I am happy to report that the ASI Air kept running all night, well, for the few hours that I was able to shoot until it was morning. I didn't lose a single frame. Checking the logs, there were no disconnections. Everything remained stable and connected, so I'm quite happy with the performance because, I mean, this is what I wanted to test. Obviously, through the clouds and in a few hours, we're not expecting to see anything spectacular. In any case, I did a quick stack of the images, and this is what I got. Obviously, you can't see anything because this was shot through clouds. However, you can see that the stars remained pinpoint, so this is what we wanted to know here. To give you an idea about the sensor itself, here are some photos that I have shot with the ZWO over the past few months with different systems. I mean, it is great. I think there's no question about that, and the camera in the new system is identical, so it will perform just as well. And I really just wanted to see how this whole ultra integrated system works. All that said, is it worth it to upgrade to one of these? If you already have the 2600 Pro or Duo and maybe a separate ASI Air or whatever system, I would honestly probably not run to the store to change it because you're not going to get any improvement in image quality because it's identical. The core functionality is exactly the same. The only thing it gives you over the Duo is wireless connectivity over Bluetooth. So if that is a must-have for you, then this is a great option. Otherwise, there's no difference really. However, if you're currently on the market looking for a new sensor, especially if you are looking at the IMX571, if you're happy using the ASI Air, I think this is an unbeatable option because they're essentially making you pay what they used to make you pay for the camera itself. Now you get the guiding included, now you get the ASI Air included. So I think it is a very easy and compact way to get all of those things if you don't already have them. This is a great, very simple setup for an actually very reasonable price if you consider all the functionalities that are now included. That said, I have this theory, kind of. Last year, ZWO came out with their smart telescope, the C-Star. This is an all-integrated smart telescope that it's really meant to be as user-friendly as possible. It does everything for you. You put it outside, you connect to it, you tell it, this is the object I want. It does the tracking, the focusing, everything for you, and then it also stacks the images. At the price point of $500, this is extremely accessible, and this has brought astronomy closer to a lot of people that may have never even considered doing electronically assisted astronomy or astrophotography before. So I think that this is brilliant at that. However, it comes with a lot of limitations because of the way it's built, because of the sensor included, and obviously because at the price point of what it is, there is a limitation to what you can do. Some people are very happy with that, and that is great, but there are a lot of C-Star users that have now experienced what it feels like to capture deep space themselves, and they are just not satisfied with what they're able to do with this, so they might be looking at upgrading to a more traditional system with an equatorial mount and all that. Some of them might just go ahead and buy a full-on setup, but there are a lot of people who may not be as tech savvy or may not be as patient, and for them, this system is offering a very smooth transition into a more traditional setup without intimidating them by increasing the complexity too much. Almost everything is running as an all-in-one setup, somewhat similar to the C-Star, but able to deliver a quality that is infinitely better without making it unnecessarily complicated. And I think that this reduces this barrier to entry for a lot of people, and I think that this is brilliant because the more people get into it, the better. All that said, we have to address the elephant in the room, which is that this is an all-integrated setup. ZWO has been criticized historically for locking people into their ecosystem, and people are concerned that this is getting way worse at this point. In my opinion, as long as somebody is an ASI Air user, this changes nothing with that respect, apart from the fact that you are purchasing one physical device instead of 2 or 3 by the same company. However, if you're a user that might want to use third-party software, I would honestly not recommend this. It does technically work with third-party software. It works with anything ASCOM via Alpaca, which is this framework within ASCOM that lets you connect to devices over a different methodology, and it includes devices over Wi-Fi. But this is really a workaround of a workaround. This is not the way it's meant to be used. Just to see how complex this whole using it from the computer story is, I'm going to try it out. I understand that I have to power the camera because the whole thing has to be on and connected to the network because it works over Wi-Fi. So this will take about a minute to start up, and the lady will tell us when she's ready.
Powering on, waiting for connection.
I do have ASI Studio installed on my Mac, so that's what I will be using. I updated it this morning to the latest version, which should support this whole Wi-Fi thing. The camera is connected to my home Wi-Fi. Obviously, my computer is also connected to the Wi-Fi. So let's see, I'm gonna go into ASI Capture. It will start that up, and this is not working. So I will change approach by trying to connect to the camera directly, and I will try to refresh. Still nothing. Let me see if any of the other applications work, like the imaging application. There's still nothing. This is where the manual comes in. Click open and select the corresponding camera model from the camera list. We don't have that. So there was absolutely no way that I was gonna make that work. It was just not doing anything with the ASI Studio on my Mac. So I went and retrieved my Eagle, which is my only Windows computer that has ASCOM installed. I installed Alpaca, and after a lot, and I mean a lot of trial and error, I think I got it to work. now I have the option of choosing these new alpaca devices, and these are the ones that we're trying to use here. So I will try to connect to one. This is in the alpaca ASCOM discovery window. I wonder if this would also just show up within Nina. It does. I see the cameras here, so I can try to connect to it. So this is successfully connected. I will try to take a picture. I don't expect to see anything. I just want to see if I can get a picture, which is like all black. So I will just take a 1-second picture. See how long this takes, because I expect this to be a little slow. So I took the picture and it is now downloading for multiple seconds now. It is not showing me the status of the download. I'm going to do it again, and since it's not telling me how long it takes, I'm just going to time it with a stopwatch. I will take an image. I will wait until the image is finished. That is done. I will start the stopwatch. It took 15 seconds to get a single 1-second exposure. It's really not usable. Even for deep sky, if you're gonna take very long images, like if you take 10-minute images, if you want to refocus and you want to take, I don't know, maybe 10 pictures to refocus, it will take you forever just to focus. I just want to see if I can connect it also to PhD to see if the two cameras would work at the same time. I think that I have to do it from the Alpaca Discovery tool. There is another new alpaca device. I will connect to it. It showed up here now. It refreshed it on the list. Okay, I am connected to the guide camera. I just want to see if I can start looping, and I want to see if I can take a picture. It does seem to work. Eventually, I've been working on making this work for the past 45 minutes. And in general, I don't consider myself technically challenged. So I don't usually have a hard time setting things up. So it was definitely not the most user-friendly thing I've ever seen. I do have to say that it works. It works poorly. It works very slow, but it does work. One concern that I was having while struggling with this whole setup, if I make this work right now and I had to make it work by specifying the IP address that this device has on my home network, tomorrow, say I want to go out under dark skies, I will want to take my Eagle with me and I want to use this camera. I will have to change everything everywhere to make it work, in my opinion, because obviously I will not have my home network. I will be using the self-generated Wi-Fi network of the Eagle, where the camera will have a different IP address. So not only will I have to first connect to the camera's own Wi-Fi from my phone, enable station mode, change the settings of station mode so that it would connect to the Eagle, then I have to somehow figure out the IP address that was assigned to the camera on the network of the Eagle. And then I have to change the IP address in Alpaca to ensure that it finds it, and then I can connect it. And it just seems like so much pain for something that should be simple. I see no reason to do this. Once again, I think we should just focus on using it as an ASI Air camera, and this should just be for no reason, really. The only use I see for this is if you do want to use it as an ASI Air camera, but once a year you have some very special use case that you need to use some maybe Windows-based software, adjust the tilt plate or something like that. I could see that, and this is useful for that. Not for imaging, most definitely. So for anyone that might be thinking of also using their camera with other software, you're really better off getting the ZWO and the Mini separately, should you want to. And this brings us to another caveat that this new camera has, because obviously with the ASI Air being physically built in, you cannot remove it and attach it to a different camera. And it is very common that somebody might have a color camera and then they have a mono camera for different purposes, and depending on the target or how they feel, they might use one or the other, and they may wish to just use one ASI Air. This is not possible because obviously you cannot detach this from the camera itself. So this means that this is a standalone unit as is, and you cannot combine it with any other things that you have. So once again, is it worth it? I think that it can be a great option for some people. Overall, it is an awesome option if you're looking for something extremely streamlined, as simple as possible without complicating your life, possibly when you're starting out and looking at your first rig, or if you're one of those people that really wants to just not complicate life. And one other use case I also see is maybe you already have a more advanced, complicated setup, but like me, you live far away from a dark sky location. So whenever I drive out, which for me takes about 1.5 hours or a bit more, I usually shoot with 2 telescopes at the same time, because if you're going to take the time to go under dark skies, it is so rare that we have gray skies. You might as well shoot with 2 rigs. You might want something that is a grab and go setup. You just throw it out there with a small refractor and you shoot some other targets while you're also imaging with your more advanced, more complicated setup. So there you have it. That is my first impressions and my view on the 2600MC Air. I think that ZWO has once again done a fantastic job at creating something that simplifies astrophotography even further. They have made it somewhat more accessible to even more people by lowering this barrier of entry of complexity. And if you're looking for a system that offers all possible modern conveniences without compromising on the quality like you would do with a smart telescope, that it is a good option. I would love to hear what everybody thinks. Is it awesome? Do you want it? Or is it something controversial, or you think it's too much? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Oh, and also, unrelated to this, but if you have ever used any other system where you were connecting your control system to your mount wirelessly, how did that go? I'm very curious to see how other systems are dealing with it apart from ZWO. If you enjoyed this video and like deep dive videos related to astrophotography, be it related to in-depth equipment analysis or astrophotography theory, which I do a lot of, make sure you subscribe to the Space Koala channel so you don't miss out on it, because I have so much exciting content in the pipeline already. And thank you very much for watching, and as always, clear skies.